This is Henry Frederick of Headline Surfer, and we're here for a weekly roundtable. To my right is Sally Gillis of Long Beach. To my left, Stan Escudero of Daytona Beach Shores. So guys, this week's big star at the convention is who? Sarah Palin? Marco Rubio? Mitt Romney? No. Tropical Storm Isaac. What do you have to say about that, Ms.
That's
Escudero?
the truth.
What I have to say is that Tropical Storm Isaac is not yet a hurricane, and while it may be by the time it gets anywhere near Tampa, it's not going to strike Tampa directly. It will run on past Tampa and up toward Destin according to the current track. Tampa will be on the north side of the storm, which is the more intense side, so it will probably get quite a bit of rain, some winds, conceivably even a tornado. But I don't think that the effect of it will be fierce enough to put an end to the convention. The major problem in Tampa is flooding. Tampa is low. I used to live there. And if it rains really hard, the streets flood sometimes. In a big hurricane, they flood a lot. But this hurricane is not going to force water up the bay. And because it will not, the risk of a flood large enough to force evacuation of the convention center, which is right near the water, is, I think, not great enough to warrant evacuation, and I believe the convention will go ahead. The gods will smile upon the Republicans, Henry.
Well, let me ask you this, Sally. With Katrina, that was a disaster.
Yes, it was.
In New Orleans. Could Isaac be the big story? Is there anything beyond Isaac? We know who the nominee is.
Well,
we know who the VP is. Can Isaac bring some relief to the boredom and tedium of conventions? Not that it's Republican or Democrat, but...
I like conventions. I went to Presidency 5 in September over in Orlando. And it was the excitement level and the buzz that you've got, the people that are going to be leading you, maybe, is exciting. And to get up close to those people and talk to them, it's a lot of fun. And I know there are a lot of people from here going to the convention. I won't be one of them, unfortunately, but I sure would like to be there.
Gone are the days of 1968, riots in the street, Abraham Ribicoff chastising the mayor of Chicago, and
That's kind of exciting.
the tussling between Jimmy Carter and Ted Kennedy. What can this one offer? That's if you can top those two.
Henry, shame on you. You're a journalist and you're exposing your addiction to sensationalism.
I know, I can't help it. But no, seriously, what is the main excitement of this convention besides the pomp and circumstance of Republicans getting together and rallying around their guy?
Well, I think that is the important thing, though. I mean, if you've noticed what's happened nationwide since the nomination for Vice President of Paul Ryan, there has been a measurable, in fact, it has been measured, pickup in the momentum.
There's been a buzz of it.
Yeah, of the Republican ticket. Ryan has particularly been out there just pounding the crap out of, and that's a lot of pounding, out of the Democrats on the whole health care issue and the economy and the lack of jobs and the failure of the president's policies and a whole host of other things on which Obama needs to be severely chastised. This has had the effect of not only sparking the interest of a great number of people who are maybe more inclined to support a stronger assault, but it has also confirmed the views of a number of conservative Republicans that while Mitt Romney might not be himself quite as far to the right as they wanted the Republican candidate to be, that with the addition of a man like Ryan, who understands the health care problem in this country better than anyone else in the country, that they can vote for the Republican ticket with confidence. And I think you'll see a further bounce, a substantial bounce coming out of this convention.
Any surprises, Sally, you think?
Well, I suppose it'll be surprising who is going to be a speaker and
Who
not
is
a
the
speaker.
keynote speaker? Does anyone know at this point?
Chris Christie, I think. Governor Christie.
I
You
assume.
think he'll give anybody a knockout punch?
I don't know, but I mean, that guy is so much fun to watch. He tells it just like it is and straight to the heart. There's no backing away. If he wants to talk about it, he will talk about it. And I think that's to the benefit of the party. Get everything out on the table, discuss everything. I believe the party platform is already pretty well constructed. And probably no surprises there. I think conservatives are very happy with what's going on this year.
Yeah, it is worth noting though, that the party platform is not binding on the president in any way.
That's correct.
So I say should, when Romney and Ryan are elected, they will not be, nor will they feel bound, will they feel bound by.
Well, if you didn't understand that before the last 3.5 years, you would now. Because whatever the platform was, our current president just does whatever he wants.
Well, that's true, but then he doesn't feel bound by the Constitution either,
No,
so.
he doesn't, and that's very disappointing. I think people
That's quite
overall
predictable.
are disappointed with Mr. Obama.
If they aren't, they have a very, very low threshold of
Now,
disappointment.
Obama, speaking of Obama, he had a slogan called change, which is the most worn-out slogan that you could ever think of. Everyone says, oh, I want to bring change. It's kind of like saying, are you better off than you were 4 years ago?
Well, are
But, well, that's a different
Well,
topic.
Henry, change can be good or bad. It's necessary to specify change. Jimmy Carter promised to bring change. He did. Most of it was bad. Obama has followed in Carter's footsteps in that regard. He's changed the country in a number of ways.
in a number of terrible
And
ways.
almost all of them are dreadful. And
Well-
if they continue along their present course, they will collapse the country as we know it and fundamentally transform it, to use his words, into something radically different. And I choose the word radical with care.
I believe that Obama's new slogan is forward.
It is.
Off the
What
cliff.
does that mean?
Well, I don't know, it was Lenin's slogan too.
Was
And
it?
it was also the slogan of the Communist Party of the United States in the 1930s.
Wonderful.
I'm not saying necessarily that that means that he is a communist, but I am saying he isn't too concerned about antecedents.
Well, while we're still on this lighthearted look at the convention, let's switch gears for a second about the people that would be flying into the convention from, let's say, Las Vegas, or LA, or New York, or any Chicago, although I doubt there'd be a lot of people from Chicago.
Refugees.
Really?
The airlines now are cracking down on things like cleavage or expressions on people's shirts, especially things that have to do with like abortion or pro-life or anti. Since when did the airlines, isn't there a thing called terrorism and worrying about people with, shoe bombers and things like that? What does it matter what you wear
Well-
or how much cleavage you show in an airline?
Frankly, I wasn't aware of that, but I will say just generally speaking, that I don't believe the airlines have the authority to do that sort of thing. It seems to me a restraint of free speech, which is probably unconstitutional. And I don't think, not only do I think they should not be permitted to do that, I believe that by doing it, they're leaving themselves open to lawsuit.
Oh yeah, here it is right here. Airlines can say, you can't wear that.
Who says they can say that?
Apparently the airlines.
Well, of course, they can, they will say it.
And they probably think it's a good idea.
Airlines give many reasons for refusing to let you board, but none stir as much debate as this, how you dress. A woman flying from Las Vegas on Southwest this spring says she was confronted by an airline employee for showing too much cleavage. And another recent case, an American Airlines pilot lectured a passenger because her t-shirt bore a 4-letter expletive. Last time I knew, there was free speech in this country.
Well,
Oh,
you
we're
heard
watching
what I
it
just said.
here.
I don't believe that's an international flight, so what does that mean?
Well, you heard what I just said. I guess the airlines are taking a position that they don't want something on their airline which would offend others of their passengers. But the truth is, there is no constitutional protection against being offended. And so,
And we do have
and
free
free speech trumps that kind of concern.
At this
Why
time.
in the 21st century are we so politically correct, it seems, and anything?
Well, as with everything that does bring change, the idea that I can do anything that I want to has been embedded in our society for the last 30, 40 years. And we are now at a point where people have to be watched over what they say, what they do, where they go. So we have surveillance everywhere. We think we're free, but we're not as free as we were 50 years ago.
It's almost like this, even though it's getting kind of old now, this Chick-fil-A thing where, when I was a kid, this kind of thing was a no-no. Back in the day, it was issues of race and that kind of thing with discrimination. Now it's gay rights and.
I know, things that we wouldn't even think about discussing.
Gender confusion and embracing of gender non-identification, but yet you go on an airplane and you show too much cleavage. It's like, almost like we become non-people.
Well, I mean, it's a throwback, but the truth is that we are moving as a society in a direction where ultimately there will be no limits in some areas and very, very tight limits in others. For example, anything regarding race, anything which could be construed no matter how tortuously as discriminatory will be forbidden, either because you'll be shunned if you do it or forbidden by law. On the other hand, other types of behavior, which when I was young in the 40s and 50s would have gotten you in all kinds of trouble, are now done openly with no fear of consequence, and indeed, there are no consequences. I'm not even sure there should be.
So that brings us to the local angle now, which will wrap this tawdry affair up with today, and that is Mr. Ken Ali. I am a heterosexual, I am married. It didn't work out too well in the primary. Do you think there's pressure on voters with the media to condemn? I mean, he was making a point that another candidate that potentially was bisexual. I don't think we even should get into names, but the point is that he was ridiculed in the media.
Of course, they'll ridicule anyone for anything. But you know, now you talk about a double standard, and you have someone like Mr. Aiken, who really put his foot in it last week and said the stupidest, most uneducated thing in the world.
What did he say? I can't seem to get that to come through on any media reporting.
He said that women's bodies, women in general, have the capacity, in cases of what he called legitimate rape, to prevent conception. And
what does that mean in English?
well, that's what he said. That's
It
almost
sounds like
exactly
that.
what it
Sounds
means.
like
I know, but it's,
What it means is that if a woman has a child as a result of rape, it's because she wanted to. She either wanted to have sex or she wanted to have the child, but she has the capacity to prevent it otherwise. It's almost going back to the old dreadful joke about rape just being a case of not saying yes in time. I mean, it's horribly insulting to women. Not to mention the fact that it's physically incorrect.
and when Aiken said that, everybody went off the reservation. Everybody was complaining and carrying on. And I thought, I wonder if this is going to be as one-sided as we think it might be. Rush Limbaugh came out and said a few things in support of him. Back to the politically correct comment, no one is allowed to say anything anymore in case they might make a mistake. Now, the rest of this man's history is just, he's trashed, he's gone, no matter what. Our party, the Republican Party's thrown him out, they're not giving him any money.
Well, why isn't he gone already? Shouldn't he just
He said
leave?
no, and he's
It's up
the
to
one
him
that,
personally.
yeah.
But isn't that gonna cast a shadow? Is that potentially the quote-unquote the storm of the convention?
I don't think so. I
No, the
just,
entire Republican Party has disowned the man, and they did so immediately.
immediately, so that's, I think that's fine. But look what happened, you know, Clinton carried on the whole time he was in office, and the media sort of reported it, and everybody joked and laughed about it, but he was allowed to get away with it.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, it was in every report in every newspaper in the country.
It didn't hurt him any.
What was the investigator? I can't remember his name. The guy that the Star report.
Ken Starr.
I mean, that's a permanent document that he can never
Well, the man was
escape.
impeached. He wasn't
Right.
convicted, but he was impeached.
But he doesn't care.
But it made no difference to him.
You have to
He knew
admit,
that-
though, he looks pretty.
He knew that he
presidential
wouldn't,
compared
well, he
to
knew that he
Obama.
wouldn't be convicted, and he knew that he would go on with his presidency.
Is he more presidential than Obama?
He would have to be.
How is it that this is also the week when we're celebrating 19th Amendment, women's suffrage? It seems kind of weird that,
What's that got to do with that?
well, the idea that men are dogs, you know?
No,
Well, well, I see.
just one.
Um,
I like
you know, now even that has kind of become forgotten and all this stuff about who we are in terms of sex or
Well, we're
role.
darn lucky we live in America and we do have the right to vote because they're still beating women and stoning them in the Arab countries.
Stan, it can't just be the Arab countries, right? Isn't it an issue
Well,
like?
it's not just, it's not, if you mean where women are discriminated against, oh my God, no. There are a number, for example, of African countries where genital mutilation is routinely practiced.
What about some of these island,
Whether they are Islamic or not.
what about some of these island countries where there's ancient civil,
I don't,
tribes?
I don't know, I've never been to those. But
Are the Muslim countries the worst?
that would also be impossible.
Saudi
for you to
Arabia?
say. See, first of all, you can't group them all together.
Well, when you commit
Saudis
adultery,
have-
they stone them.
Well, not necessarily, it depends on the country. I lived in Azerbaijan for many years, for about 12, 13 years. Azerbaijan gave women the right to vote before the United States did. And in Azerbaijan, women don't wear burqas or veils or anything else unless they wish to. They can if they want, but they don't have to, and most do not.
Yeah, no, that just reminds me
They
of
have the
something.
right to divorce men.
I'm sorry, let me cut you off for a second. You can't show cleavage on an airplane, but you can't wear a burqa on an airplane. What's the balance here? I mean, it just seems kind of funny.
I think it's a
People
waste
have
of
gone
time to
crazy.
search for
I do
consistency.
too,
in these things.
I do too.
And
And
what's-
personally, what's the matter with profiling? If all of a certain type of crime have been committed by a small group of people, why aren't we looking at those people? I mean, why do I have to take my shoes off when I get on a plane? Do I look like a terrorist?
Well, since we talked about women's suffrage and we talked about what to wear on an airplane and roles and, gender and pretty people and everyday people, what's going on now locally? This has been very, very quiet. Is this like the quiet season? When does it heat up, Stan?
Well, I think that it will heat up again after the Republican convention.
But I mean locally.
Sure,
Yeah.
I'm saying locally. What's happening locally is that the two parties locally are reassessing their positions in the wake of the election. I think the Democrats expected to win at the county level easily, as they always have, and they were shocked to discover that there is a second political party in Volusia County, and it's found its voice.
But this was a Republican primary for all intents and purposes, right, Sally?
Well, but there was a Democrat primary as well, but yes.
But there were no candidates in it.
Well,
Well, there
this
were
is-
the ones who were running for re-election.
Yeah. and
But
they're-
what
they're
I
all-
mean is, like, for example, Dave Hood, Republican in Ormond Beach for the state representative seat that's gonna come down. to
Well,
the
David's
Senate.
fortunate, he has no opponents.
Well, he has I guess, a writing candidate
Well,
in the
yes.
fall. You had De La Roche and Matusik, two Republicans going at it.
Yes.
But that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, Stacey
That's why
Warren
you
and
have,
everything.
Right, Stace Warren.
you have, and I'm
RJ
sorry
Lorenzo.
that she didn't win. You have primaries so that you can duke it out and see who's gonna come out on top and what people want. If they pick a certain candidate, it's usually because that candidate has a view similar to their own. And we need to have primaries. I thought it got a little muddy out there sometimes this year, but that's just the way it is.
Well, on that note, for Sally Gillis and Stan Escudero, this is Henry Frederick of Headline Surfer, and this is the Roundtable, and we hope everyone has a good week. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank